Hour 2 Overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Gord Miller. Got Steve Phillips coming up here in just a moment. Jays, Phillies tonight. Yusei Kikuchi up against Zach Wheeler. Jays getting some plus money at home tonight.
Yeah.
And Wheeler's been great.
Well, tough schedule, right? They got the Phillies now for 2, Cincinnati for 3, and Baltimore, right?
Right. This is a big stretch
bonus
you're
points,
talking about.
Bonus points for Gord.
Yeah, you're on top of things.
Next 10 days of this Blue Jays schedule.
And the Jays dealing with injuries. Matt Chapman out of the lineup tonight. Bichette's still not back. You've got Romano that has been activated, but they're dealing with it. They're fighting some injuries right now. You take Chapman and Bichette out of your infield, the left side of your infield, that's going to lead to a big drop. And those are 2 bats that you need, but Bichette in particular.
And the Mariners have a fairly soft schedule the next 2 weeks, right? The team that's chasing them in the wild card race.
And Seattle is, they haven't had a great run recently. Prior to the most recent few days, they had a great run.
They won 11 in a row.
They battled themselves right back into the race.
Now, John Gibbons made a good point yesterday that they kind of, they won their 11 in a row. You're not going to sustain.
It was never going to continue.
Every Major League Baseball team is going to have a great 2 weeks. Every team's going to, Oakland's going to win 7 out of 8 at some point.
Well, they did. I think they won 7 in a row earlier this year, and it was shocking to people.
Every team will do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they will.
The trick is, and it's kind of true in hockey too, you can't have a bad month. Your hot streak will get you, comfortably in, unless you had a bad month, and then you're struggling.
Yeah, I mean, in baseball generally, if you win 6 out of 10 games, if you just consistently go 6-4, 600 baseball, that's a great season. That generally will cut it for you.
Yeah.
But you don't look at it that way, because it's all about runs. To your point, you win 11 in a row, then you lose 4 in a row, then you go 6-2, then you go 3-5, and it all balances out in the end. But in pro sports, you win 6 times out of 10, you're going to be a very competitive team. Well, really, in whatever league you're in.
In the NHL, you need 6 out of 10 points to make the playoffs.
Yeah. You do that, you're ending up with 90-plus points, and you're going to get in.
Should be in.
Should be in. Yes, there are anomalies, and there are times where you could actually get in with less. But you're right. And how many teams in every sport, they have a great start to the season, and then they can just float all the way home.
Right, because it banks it for you.
It banks so many points for you.
That first month banks it for you.
Yeah.
Just got to play 500 the rest of the way. But the problem is that bad month. That 2-14 month.
That can kill you.
Kills you.
Yeah, it generally can.
That's what doesn't happen in basketball. For the most part, good teams don't
go on runs like that.
They don't.
Now, this year was strange with Golden State because of how poor they were on the road.
Which was
their road splits were crazy. They were one of the worst teams, I believe, in recent NBA history on the road.
But they also had injuries, right?
They did, and then there'd be load management and stuff like that, and they just, but they won enough at home where they still made their way into the playoffs. But the Jays, Philly tonight, we'll see. You got Yusei Kikuchi on a man again. Matt Chapman is out of the lineup. Steve Phillips coming up here in a moment. We got confirmed tonight later this hour. We'll get into this Neymar Saudi Arabia stuff.
Oh, my goodness.
This is wild. We can't go more than 2 or 3 shows without talking about soccer superstars making their way to Saudi Arabia or turning down the option to go.
You could buy leagues for what these guys are getting.
Well, I saw a video last night. So Fabinho, again, I'm not familiar with all these players, but I guess he's made his way to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And there was a video that went viral yesterday. He was coming off the pitch, and a fan gave him a Rolex.
Yes.
There's a video of just a fan saying, "Hey, great game. Thanks for coming. Here's a Rolex." I have been to a lot of sporting events. Shouldn't it be the opposite way? Shouldn't the player who's worth millions be the one handing out Rolexes to children in the streets? The idea of walking off the field of play, going over, shaking the hand of some guy, and he goes, "Here's a Rolex for you." It's just insane. And the Neymar stuff, he's got a private plane at his disposal, a mansion with staff provided. He gets $80,000 for a bonus if his team wins, which is nothing. That basically means they don't care if you win or lose. But he will make $500,000 for every post or story he puts on social media that promotes Saudi Arabia. This guy, if that's me, I'm making 100 posts a day. I'm walking out of there with $1 billion.
There must be a limit.
There's got to be a limit on that. There's got to be some fine print, right?
But
if you're in for a penny, be in for a pound, and just do all the posting, make all the money, and get the hell out of there.
So we do joke about it, and it is crazy and everything else. But the live thing with the PGA Tour, there's sport washing going on here, right? The Saudis are using professional athletes, professional leagues, professional teams to burnish their image.
They're changing their image, and they're reinvesting their money into something different. I think they realize oil is going in a different direction. They're like, we'll get into sports,
and we'll polish our image up, and we'll use star athletes to do it.
Sure, it seems like a pretty good plan.
Yeah,
I would say it's a pretty good plan. I don't know if it'll work, but Neymar's the latest guy to jump in. Here's Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. What's your price, Steve? What are the Saudis paying you to get you over there?
Trust me, listen, I can be bought, and it won't take a lot. I mean, honestly, it won't take a lot. And you can wash all you want over here. I'm taking it. So whatever you want, I'm in.
The for sale sign is up.
It's up there.
Yes, sirree. I am able to be bought. No question about
that. $500,000 for a post. Like, what does that even look like? Hey, walking down the street, cool street, post, $500,000.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a nice palace over there, $500,000.
Wait, that's my palace.
That's probably his. Yeah, it's crazy the amount of money, man.
I am going to go for a walk and start posting right now.
Yes.
So I'm all in on that.
We at TSN will give you $5 for every positive tweet, up to a maximum of 3.
Yes, exactly. Watch yourself, Steve.
Yeah,
you can get rich off us up here. We'll take care of you. So Jay's back in action. How necessary do you think that off day was, Steve? They had played 17 games in 17 days. They're hurt. Chapman's out of the lineup again tonight. Bichette's still not back. They got Romano, who has been activated again. But they're dealing with some injuries, but they've been playing a lot of ball games. I expect to see a pretty fresh team tonight. How significant can that be for a club when you play that many games over that many days and you finally get a day off?
Yeah, no, it's huge. It really is. I mean, there's times, people don't really understand it. There's times as a baseball player, you pray for rain. Now, obviously, with a dome, it doesn't really do much good for you with you. But for the Jays, when they're on the road, there are days where they're praying for rain, and that just to get to buy an off day somewhere along the way, just to catch your breath a little bit. Now, here's the thing: they're off today, they're off Thursday, they're off next Monday, and so be careful what you wish for, because there's a part of it that does bring you some rest, which is necessary. But it also can throw you out of sync a little bit, because when you do play 17 straight, you have a rhythm to the way that you work your day, your process, your preparation, your thought process, your schedule. It's all scheduled for you. And then, you get, so it gets Monday, you take the break, you think, all right, this is good. I need a day just to flush it all out. Then you come back and play a couple of days, and then you're like, you got to do it again. And then you play 3 more days, you do it again. And so I don't love 3 days off in 8 days because it can mess up the rhythm a little bit. But it can also just be something the way that you frame it. You've got to have the right perspective, the way that you're framing it, because the way you think about things affects the way that you feel, the way that you act, the way that you move. And so, they're going to have a plan about how they're going to handle this, because the number of off days is inordinate for this short a period of time.
Well, and you got Yusei Kikuchi on the mound tonight coming off that off day. Obviously, they've adjusted the rotation by sending Manoah down. They're in a true 5-man rotation right now. And Kikuchi's been outstanding this year. I'm curious how you would answer this, because we were throwing it around yesterday, Steve. If they got to the wild card round, if they got to a game 3, I think we all assume Gausman will start game 1, Bassett probably game 2. Do you think it's Barrios or Kikuchi who would get the ball game 3?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I don't know that we have the answer to it yet. And I don't know that the answer today will necessarily be the answer when you get to October. I think there's so much can happen between now and then. And, I would not discount Ryu from, at some point being in the mix for the conversation. As, you're looking at probably another over the next 7 weeks, you're looking at, probably, 7 or 8 starts still to be had. And I think that you're going to get a different feel that where people are today may not be who you are then. So I suspect that it's going to be Gausman, Barrios, and Bassett. And then I think the question is it Kikuchi, who has certainly earned that recognition so far? But if Ryu gets locked in, because one thing for Ryu, he can't really come out of the bullpen unless you're going to warm him up with the intention of him coming in to start next inning and you've got a full plan about how you're going to use him, because he's not a quick warm-up guy. He's had so many arm injuries. He's an older body. I think that using him on the pen's probably not the most effective. And the thing for Kikuchi is that if you can get him that aggressive with his fastball, come in throwing the breaking ball, he could be a swing and miss guy for you coming out of the pen from the left side. And so I think it's a tough spot. They've got a lot of guys who are good, but they're all about the same. And so you're going to have to pick and choose. And maybe it's the opposition that will dictate who's in the rotation. Maybe it'll be better to have two left-handed starters among four. Again, not the wild card round, but beyond that, if you go, you might want four starters, and it may be that two lefties factor in. And then you're going to have to look at Bassett and Brios and figure out which one of those two you leave out that could back it up and give you some bullpen work. So I really think it's premature to speculate right now on who is going to be in that rotation. We know it won't be Manoah. There's not enough time for him to regain trust, and he won't be a weapon in the bullpen because he doesn't throw enough strikes. You can't bring a guy out of the pen and have him walk people, and that's really been his nemesis this year. And so I think it's a lost year for him, but I do think that it's still to be determined for me.
So, Steve, I want to turn attention to the things at the plate for the Blue Jays, and it looked like in that sweep of Boston 10 days ago that George Springer had kind of come back to life. He's cooled off a bit again. Varsho had the big day against the Cubs on Sunday. Do you see signs that maybe there's a little consistency at some point coming back for these guys who are both having career low years in terms of batting average, on-base percentage, OPS, all of it?
Yeah, I do. I do think there are some better at-bats that they've been having, and there does seem to be some more confidence there. And for Springer, I think that the sort of laughing and relaxing a little bit after that one first hit, I think opened the door a bit for him. It's amazing what a good laugh will do when you're 0 for 31. You're not enjoying life. There's no comedy show that you're going to that's making you laugh. You're miserable. And to finally get that hit where you jump up and down with your teammates and celebrate, call for the ball and everything else can loosen things up, but for yourself and for everybody else in the dugout. And I think people feed off of Springer. The other thing, I did a piece yesterday for SportsCenter about the 7 issues or storylines for the Jays, for the next 7 weeks into the season. Springer was one of them. He's a postseason pedigree guy, and among active players, one of the best postseason performers. They need that guy because everybody else will feed off of his energy, his performance. They need Bichette. They need Vladdy to be more than a league average player, and start to turn on. It does feel like, that Vladdy's got a hot streak coming to where he can carry the team a little bit. And so as I talked about those things, I actually started to feel them and see them, that they were real potential items. I did ask him about the starting pitching, where that would go and move forward. And then the bullpen just with Romano, because what they can't have is for him to come back and be rusty. Like, you come into the game in the 9th inning today with a 5-3 lead, you got to shut it down. Like, this isn't, they can't afford we need him to get his legs underneath him for a day first before he gets settled in. No, like, you got to come in and get it done. Those are all issues for this team that I think they really need to focus on over the next few weeks.
With Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst, Jays, Phillies tonight, which means Bryce Harper's in town. And Harper's in the lineup tonight. He's had injury problems this year. He had injury problems last year. His numbers are really not that eye-popping when you consider what he did a couple of years ago when he won the MVP. I'm curious where you stand on Bryce. He's 30 now, which is amazing. It feels like he's been in our lives from a sports standpoint for 15, 20 years. So he's 30. Again, numbers not great. He's got an 802 OPS, 7 home runs. Only played in 85 games this year. Last year, he didn't even play 100 games. Is this the beginning of him kind of breaking down? Is this a midlife crisis within his career? Like, where are you at with Harper at this point?
Yeah, I don't think that. I think that, he was hurt and the power hasn't really been there for him, which is why the OPS is lower than normal. But he's still getting on base at a 38% clip. The power just hasn't been there where it's been before. He's had middle back spasms, which is one for me that I might try to bust him inside in this series and see if he can really rotate to get to that inside pitch and see if he can get there. But I think that it's just been, again, I think watching a lot of these games with the Phillies, you hear people in Philadelphia, they thought he was getting close to where the power was starting to come back a little bit, and then the back spasms kicked in. And so that's going to be an interesting one. And Trey Turner's the other guy there for them. That really, he was the star of the World Baseball Classic, 5 home runs in the WBC, looked like he was going to tear it up. He's been really, an inconsequential member of their offense, but they're still, the top wild card team in the National League. Their pitching's been good. They fortified their bullpen. Dave Dombrowski, their president of baseball operations, does a great job. Castellanos is having a much better year. Schwarber, does hit for power and gets on base, doesn't do a lot else. But Bryce and Stott and Alec Boehm, those are guys you have to be careful with because they feel like complementary players, but they're growing into stars themselves as well. So, Harper, I always hate doing this because it's the broadcaster, it's the analyst nightmare. Harper hasn't hit for much power. Yeah, the power's not really there. Well, you know what's going to happen now? He's going to go off, right?
Yes,
hit for power, and it's inevitable what ends up happening. But I would be really aggressive inside with him with that back that's been bothering him.
So, Steve, we talked about this a moment ago about the schedule. So the Jays have 2 against the Phillies, who are second in the National League East. Then they got 3 with Cincinnati, right in the thick of the race in the Central. And then they got 3 with Baltimore, who have the best record in the American League. On paper, Seattle's got a much easier schedule. Lost to Kansas City last night, but there's a lot of Kansas City, a lot of Oakland coming up. How do you size up that race for the last wild card spot?
Yeah, so you're right. The schedule is one that certainly favors Seattle. I mean, they've got, 19, 20 games left against Oakland and Kansas City and Chicago White Sox and New York Mets. And, the lineup the Mets running out there right now, a bunch of AAA guys. It's amazing how quickly things turn for them. So on a piece of paper, it is an easier schedule for Seattle. But Seattle got so hot to get back into this. And sometimes it's not who you play, it's when you play them. And they're bound to cool off a little bit. They made mistakes yesterday. They did come back on Seattle. They had a devastating loss to the Royals yesterday. The Royals are playing better baseball. So, yeah, I think that in the Jay schedule's not great. They got a lot of games left against the American League East. I think they're like 11-23 against the American League East this year. And they played better against Boston, but, Baltimore has owned them. They've not fared all that well against the Yankees, although the Yankees are undermanned right now, too. So, I think that the Blue Jays are the better team. They should be able to hold on and win. The schedule can't be an excuse. They played some of these other teams earlier in the year, and they need Bichette and Guerrero, and they need the rotation to get locked in. They need Romano to come back healthy and productive, but they are the better team. They just need to go out and play like it and go get the playoff spot. Don't look over your shoulder. Look in front of you at Houston and Tampa Bay and look at trying to go get them. Now, don't get them because you don't want to be anything other than the third wild card, but at least pursue them.
Right.
And stop looking over your shoulder like you're worried about Seattle and start thinking about go get the division title. Go out there and start playing great baseball and see what happens.
With Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst.
Steve, as a hockey guy looking at baseball from 35,000 feet, love talking about the game. I've watched the rule changes this year and really liked it. We're 2/3 of the way through the schedule now. What are your thoughts on what it's looked like, and what's it going to look like in the postseason when maybe a pitcher gets called for a pitch clock violation, or or throwing back to first base is not going to be as easy to do. What are your thoughts on the rule changes and the impact they've had?
Right. They've been fantastic. I mean, they've cut about, we talk about the time of game that's been reduced, but that's not really it wasn't the goal. The goal was to reduce the time between the action,
right,
which has a residual benefit of shortening the game. But it has sped the game up significantly. It's 25 to 30 minutes faster, shorter period of time per game. So it means a lot more action in a shorter period of time, which was the goal of what they were trying to accomplish. That part's been good. You banning the shift has allowed more base hits. And therefore more action on the bases, more stolen bases by far this year, significant improvement and upgrade in numbers of that. And so there's all of those things they want. And then the pitch timer is one that, it's something every player I interview, I ask, do you still have to think about it or is it second nature yet? And they all still have to think about it. That sometimes the game does speed up on them. And people said, well, maybe in the playoffs they should give them more time and everything else. I'm like, no
way.
No. And I guess the way I look at it is, in a playoff game in the NFL, quarterbacks take delay of game penalties, right? There are delay of game penalties that happen in the NFL in the playoffs, and nobody reacts thinking, we got a problem with the rule. No, how about a problem with getting the play in? And so this is one where when the games mean the most, you should be most alert to all of those things that could impact the game. And so if there is a pitch timer violation that has any significant impact, shame on the player, shame on the team, because it's not the rule that's the problem. It's the violator of the rule that's the problem.
Absolutely. We'll leave it there. Steve, we'll do it again soon. Thank you, buddy.
You bet. My pleasure, guys. Thanks.
Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota and check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory arriving daily. It's time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com.
Why do I think Steve Phillips wakes up like that every day?
Always ready to go.
Like just
Steve is always on his toes. He's always ready to talk baseball. He loves it. And, Jays Phillies tonight. We'll see. We'll see what the Jays have in store here. Only a 2-game series. Bryce Harper in town.
But it's funny, so Seattle loses to Kansas City. You look at that schedule and you say, oh, well, Seattle's got lots of Kansas City.
Doesn't mean anything.
But you got to win the game.
Still got to play the games.
Yeah.
Yep, still got to play the games. And the Jays they got a 2-game lead on Seattle, 3 games on Boston. They're 2 back of Houston.
Boston's
still hanging around.
Boston's the one that I want. Their pitching's no good. We keep hearing their pitching's no good.
But they've been producing, and really since the beginning of June, they've been a good team. Like you talk about the win 6 out of 10. They've been doing that pretty consistently for the better part of 2.5 months now. So, do they run out of time? That could be the case, right? With every game, every day, every series that goes by, you're just shaving off the opportunity to make up more ground. But the Jays will play the Sox.
They only have them one more time for 3 games, right?
Right.
Here.
Jays have been better at home. We'll see.
Except it's weird. Like Vladdy hasn't hit a home run at home in nearly a month.
Well, and when he hit one, he hadn't hit one for the first 3 months of the season, something crazy like that.
He's got 5 at home,
and it's all been in the last month. Yeah. But Vladdy does not look comfortable at the plate. Like he looks like he looks confused at times. Like he doesn't know what's coming. He's not controlling the strike zone very well. He doesn't look comfortable. But you're waiting for it to change, and you understand that if and when it does, that's going to be significant. And with Chapman out tonight, Bichette still remains out. Like tonight's the night where you need Vladdy. Coming off a day off, Wheeler's a great arm. You got to have him tonight. Confirm and deny coming up. Gord Miller's in here. I'm Bryan Hayes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Austin trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
All right, Gord, I can confirm that Confirm or Deny is brought to you by Don Valley North Lexus. Right now, lease the 2023 RX 350 premium package from just $358 bi-weekly for 24 months. Visit DonValleyNorthLexus.com for all the details.
Maybe time for a new intro for Confirm or Deny.
Never.
Do we need to drag the Tuukka Rask, Andrew Raycroft?
Yeah, forever.
Really? Forever?
I cannot confirm or deny if that was, in fact, a real trade. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it just happened. Confirm or deny, that intro is one of the great production pieces we've ever put together.
It's just a.
Yeah. That's kind of the point of it.
It's a rock in the shoe.
It's a long time removed from the old Fergie days. He's still kicking around the NHL.
Yeah.
He's still doing good things.
Yeah.
Right? He's down in Arizona.
Yeah.
He's a professor at the Arizona State University Coyotes.
Yeah, he's...
right?
There we go. There we go with that again. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to drag you in. You're not willing to jump on that boat?
Well,
I know you got to go in those buildings.
No, it is.
They play at a university. I'm just
They do,
facts.
and it's not 5,000 seats.
Less than that?
It's less than that.
Are there students? Is there a student section?
No, it's with the camera positions and everything else that go into it. It's not. I can't believe the players accept that.
Well,
like for the calculation of HRR.
It's the National Hockey League. Yeah. It's listen,
man. I go back to the Expo Hall in Tampa, the old Expo Hall, the Cow Palace in San Francisco, where the Sharks played their first year, the Palais de Boeuf. It was
even the rink that Ottawa started in, where the
Civic Center.
67s have been playing in forever.
Civic Center.
It's a really cool junior rink.
Greensboro, Carolina played in Greensboro.
That's right. Talk to Ho about that. All right, enough of that.
Okay, here we
the
go.
intro's staying. It's a great intro.
Okay.
All right.
Far be it from me.
Yes, confirm or deny. Alec Manoah will make at least one more start this season for the Jays.
I was going to say confirm, but then I listened to Steve Phillips a minute ago, and he makes a great point that if it's tight down the stretch, you can't bring him out of the pen. Can you start him? Like, unless you get injuries, I'm going to say deny.
Yeah, for me, I'm predicting an injury, and I don't want to. I'm not going to suggest who it is, but
statistically,
you're looking at 5 guys all of them veteran
late in the
guys.
year.
Late in the year, is something going to pop up where someone gets a blister and has to be skipped? Now, they might go with an opener anyway.
But
It may not be a situation where they can't even bring him up because you can't put a guy on the IL.
But barring that, I'm going to say no.
Right. And the injury, again, it's got to be someone that's either got to go on the IL, but if you get into September and the rosters expand and he comes up, I'm actually going to confirm this, but I don't think it's the plan. I don't think it should be the plan. I think this guy should be pitching in Buffalo until, again, the rosters expand, the AAA season comes to an end, bring him up, have him around the team, and have him continue to work towards things behind the scenes. But I just don't have enough faith that on August 15th, we still got a lot of runway here.
Yeah.
That something isn't going to pop up that will lead to Manoah getting a
It's
start.
only 6 weeks.
Right, but there's got a lot of ball games in those 6 weeks. And maybe he goes down, has 2 or 3 great starts. Maybe. And maybe they bring him up and they realize, you know what, we want to throw this guy a bone. Maybe they get towards the end of the season and they're trying to jockey their rotation where they feel good about where they are. They're going to make the playoffs, but they're not going to catch the second seed, so you throw them a bone. So a number of different ways that Manoah can still get on the mound. So I will confirm it, but I will admit I'm not overly confident that that'll be the case. How about this one? Confirm or deny, James Harden will play at least one more game for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Deny. But if he does, he will not run.
You think it'll be a full sabotage?
The anchor will be fully out. He will completely throw the anchor out. He will look the other way.
So they couldn't even put him on the court if they sniffed that out.
He'll have that look on his face, that sort of, that.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, when he wanted out of Houston, Houston had turned the corner and they were terrible. Yeah. And there was an understanding that they were awful. Philly is not in that position. No. Philly wants to be competitive. They are competitive. So they can't have a guy sabotage on the court.
But not just that. He called the general manager a liar.
I know, but bygones can be bygones. The general manager's not in the huddle. He's not in the room.
He hasn't gone back. Like, he's not KD. He hasn't gone back on a trade demand. When he wants one, he gets one.
He generally does. That happened in Houston. It happened in Brooklyn. He had to buy his time a little bit in Brooklyn, but eventually it did take place. I don't think Daryl Morey is going to step in here and say, fine, I'm not playing with you anymore, or you're not allowed to play for my team because you called me a liar. So if Harden decides, you know what, there's too much money at stake, or if I don't show up, eventually I'm going to get fined or suspended without pay, which is a part of the CBA, I believe. Like, if you take yourself out, eventually the NBA is going to be like, all right, you're out. You're not making money anymore. That would lead me to believe he might decide, you know what, I have to show up to prove to these guys I'm serious, which is kind of strange. Like, staying away may not be enough.
Yeah.
To truly sabotage and get your way, you actually have to show up. But you have to be such a malcontent. You have to mail it in at such a significant level that I want to will myself into confirming this because I want to see it.
Just to see it.
I'll fully admit, this is not a pure science that I'm concluding here, but I want to see this guy in a fat suit, throwing up threes from all over the court and just being
and not even watching them. And not even
jackass.
watching them. Just throwing them up, turning them
and turning away.
Yeah.
Preferring if they missed. Expecting that they miss. And I want to see how Nick Nurse handles it. I want to see Joel Embiid, how he might handle this. Yeah. It has all the makings of a complete disaster.
And in Philly.
In Philly.
In Philadelphia.
And I fully support it. All right, confirm or deny. It is more likely that the Boston Bruins will miss the playoffs this season than repeat as President's Trophy winners.
I will confirm that, but I still think they make the playoffs.
Okay, you're hedging your confirm or deny?
Well, I'm just saying.
Look at you, Fergie. Play it. Oop, I cannot confirm or deny.
You've given me a binary choice.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the game. There's no middle ground unless you're going to be Fergie and not confirm or deny.
Deny. No, sorry. Confirm.
You're confirming.
I'm confirming.
I'm confirming.
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't think they win the President's Trophy.
No. I mean, when was the last time a team won back-to-back President's Trophies?
Detroit, wasn't it?
In the 90s?
2000s, I think.
Oh, did they do it when they went to the Cup final and then lost the next year to Pitt?
Yeah, I think so.
It wouldn't be surprising if it were even longer than that, but that's still 15 years. I'm with you. The likelihood of them repeating without Bergeron, without Krejci, without Hall.
Detroit. No, sorry.
Nick Foligno, who didn't play a huge, like Foligno played every night, but was not a huge impact
Vancouver,
player.
11-12.
Vancouver won back-to-back President's Trophies.
11-12.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, I knew they won it the one year. I didn't realize they won it back-to-back years.
Detroit did it in 95 and 96.
Okay. So it is incredibly rare to do. Yes. And the likelihood of it happening, I think, is just slim to none. So I'm going to confirm this as well, because I think the Bruins will make it. But I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't. Like, they still have the makings of a very good team. I saw on SportsCenter yesterday that, like, FanDuel still has them as the third, I think, or fourth shortest odds to make the playoffs in the East. So, like, FanDuel and the books, like, they're all saying they believe the Bruins are not – they're going to fall off a little bit, but not crazy.
But if you
miss the playoffs.
If you drop off 30 points, you still make it.
Yes, if you finish with 105 points, you're in. Yeah. They need to drop off by, like, 45 points to miss. But, again, we talked about Buffalo earlier this afternoon with Dahlin and Power, and Thompson had a really, coming out season. Jeff Skinner has really kind of found his game again. Alex Tuck, if they get goaltending, Buffalo, I think, will win more games.
Does Ottawa put it together?
Ottawa's got to have a better better October and November. They start the season so poorly, it's shot themselves in the foot. If they have a better start, then who knows? The Leafs, I think, are a playoff team and are going to be very good, but I don't know what they're going to finish with. If they finished with 100 points, 98 points, it wouldn't be shocking. So if everyone kind of comes back a little bit, it becomes more of a race.
If Florida, Toronto, Tampa all make it.
Yeah, then Boston's fighting possibly for a wild card spot.
Yeah.
Right? And, yeah, they still have the makings of a very good defense and the potential for a very good goaltending tandem. I think Ullmark takes a step back to reality, but I think Swayman, if healthy, can be even better than he was a year ago.
Would you bet that one of Toronto, Florida, and Tampa would miss the playoffs this year?
I don't think I'd put money on that. I think it's unlikely.
But statistically...
But it wouldn't be shocking at all. Of course not.
Historically, one of them would miss.
Right. Well, if you include Boston in that list, I think go a step further. All four of them made it last year.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, with Ottawa and Buffalo, it is a scenario where I need to see it, which doesn't...
No, you're right.
It's not germane to this conversation. We're making predictions, so you literally can't see it. You need to predict it. But, like, I see a lot of people that are so high on Ottawa, and I'm not there. I'm not there that Ottawa is some, like, guaranteed playoff
Like,
team.
last year they won the offseason. 1 year New Jersey
did nothing for them.
1 year New Jersey won the offseason, picked first overall.
Right.
Want to pick him first overall. Like, you got to play. There's a whole bunch that goes into it. Injuries are a big part of it. Mm-hmm. Goaltending, your defense,
your competition, who you're fighting with.
The other thing is Ottawa's schedule is kind of stacked. You look at one of two ways. They got a ton of home games in October, November. So they're either going to take advantage of those and bank a bunch of points, or they're going to stumble out of the gate again, as you said, and blow all those home games.
Right. That's killed them in the past. All right, moving on. Confirm or deny, Connor McDavid will have another 150 point season this year. You're confirming.
Confirm.
Auto confirm on anything McDavid. Auto confirm.
Confirm.
150 plus points again? Okay.
I think he's going to get 180 some season before he's done.
180?
Yep.
So he's going to jump 30 plus points and get into a realm that I believe only Gretzky and Lemieux are in. Is that it? Like, I don't think anyone else has been that high, 180 plus.
It's
only Gretzky and Lemieux.
Yeah. I think he's that, yeah.
I don't know if the game is conducive to that. Like,
I think it is. I think it is. I think their power play is that good.
Their power play is phenomenal.
Mario and Wayne played on, chicken and egg. They made the power plays good, but the guys around them, right? To get 180 points, you've got to have guys around you doing great things.
Yeah.
And he's got that.
Well, and you got to have runs that are outrageous. Like, you need to have a weekend where like Gretzky always says, he'd walk out of weekends with 15 points. Yeah. Like, you got to have a Friday, Sunday weekend where you have 5 points on Friday and 6 on Sunday. It doesn't seem like real life. That's why I'm actually going to deny it.
What?
I'm going to deny it.
Wow.
Because, like, 150 was a massive jump for him. 150 was like everything they had the greatest statistical power play in NHL history, and he had 150.
I'm not saying he's getting 180 this year.
Okay, but
he's going to get 180 before he's done.
I don't think he's hitting 180. I don't think the game today allows for 180.
Okay.
I think there just aren't enough bad players in the league to rack up the points Gretzky and Lemieux did. And the goalies are way too good. That's the biggest difference. Some of the goaltending Gretzky was scoring on was absolutely outrageous, with all due respect. The stand-up, like, I know.
No.
Come on, you're an Edmonton guy. We all love Gretzky.
I agree with you.
I'm sure Wayne would be the first one to look back on some tape and say, I can't believe that one.
I would agree with you. And I think the famous goal he scores on Mike Vernon in the 88 playoffs.
He's coming across the middle?
Well, the slap shot, you don't even shoot that.
Oh, the slap shot, exactly.
You don't even shoot that.
No.
Like, look at the Lafleur goal on the late Gilles Gilbert.
Right, with too many men on the ice.
That
He was a foot inside the blue line.
Yeah.
That can't go in. And it doesn't go in. The worst goalie in the NHL today doesn't. He makes that stop and looks at the guy going, what are you, stupid? What are you doing?
Yeah. So
that's why I think the goaltending position has improved so much.
He's so good, though.
I understand how
people
great
laughed. People laughed when the TSN evil quizmaster posited that McDavid's the most evolved player in NHL history.
No.
And I don't think anyone would argue with it now. He is.
I don't disagree with that, but here's my issue with the quizmaster's take, and I've said this to the quizmaster, and I will say it publicly again. That applies to every generation.
Yes.
And guess what? In 30 years, there'll be another player who will have evolved even more. Like, sports naturally evolve.
But you didn't think anyone could take it to the next. We didn't think we'd see another player like this, who combined all the things, right? The speed, the ability to make the move at high speed, the hockey sense, the competitiveness, all of it.
Do you see him as, yeah, I guess. I mean, it's difficult to poke holes in McDavid or even that statement. The guy he is evolved in terms of his pace in his skating. I don't think he's more competitive.
What he does at high speed,
yes, is phenomenal.
Is better than anyone's ever done.
But would you say Bobby Orr? Didn't that apply to Bobby Orr? Like, how do you compare what Bobby Orr did?
Different position, and again,
but still evolved
in an expansion in a heavily expanded league. Like where there were lots of good players.
Downplay what Bobby Orr did because of expansion?
I'm not downplaying what Bobby Orr did. I'm just saying what McDavid's doing now, as you said, against the quality of competition and the fitness, the nutrition, the technology.
Right, but I don't think that's exclusive to him. Like there are guys in the league who are in better shape than Connor McDavid.
I don't know. He's pretty good.
I'm sure there are guys who are as good as like I don't. What I'm saying is I don't think he owns being in shape.
No.
Or eating properly, training. They're all nuts.
That's my point. That's my point. He's playing in a league where there are no fat guys anymore.
Right. So how does that make him more involved?
Because he's achieving at this level against the toughest competition ever. The competition in the NHL now is tougher than it's ever.
Sure, and that is again the natural evolution, and I guess that's making my point. Is like naturally it evolves generation after generation after generation. Like, do you not think in 50 years there'll be a player that will be more evolved than McDavid?
Yeah, probably.
So what is it? Like, again, I'm not trying to cheapen the point. I'm just saying, what is that? Like, what does it mean?
I just think that it's so hard to take, with the way things are now, it's so hard to take things to the next level. Like, there's only so fast people can run. There's only so far people can throw things. There's only so many home runs people can hit. And so we thought we'd kind of hit this ceiling of what players could do. And then he's kind of broken through and taken it to a next level.
I would say that is valid when it comes to tangible assets. But would you suggest he has higher IQ than past players? Like, who has a higher IQ, Wayne Gretzky or Connor McDavid?
Gretzky.
Exactly.
But McDavid, what I'm saying, McDavid, when you slot the 5 things in, he's elite at all 5 things. Gretzky was not a great skater.
Wasn't a great skater, but still got there.
No, but I'm saying, McDavid.
Comparing him to McDavid, I think comparing anyone to McDavid,
right,
probably unfair with the way he skates.
So he does everything, it seems like, at a high level. There's no, as you said, there's no discernible weakness.
No, exactly. The guy, he's the king. He's the best. I don't know. I guess, like, the idea that he's more competitive than past great players.
No, I wouldn't say
that's more evolved. His competitive nature.
I would put it, but his competitiveness is at the elite level. His skating's at the elite level. His skating's or his skills at the elite level. His vision, everything is elite.
Yes.
When's the last time we saw that?
I'm sure there have been players you could point to where you'd say it all comes down to relative, like how you would define elite. Like, would Joe Sakic have count? Like, Sakic could fly. Sakic was a really smart player. Competitive. I think he was pretty competitive. I don't know. Like, there's Pavel Bure at his height.
So Pavel Bure, I always thought was the best player I'd seen at high speed because he never had to slow down to make his move. He never had to slow down. The issue with him was he would disappear for 10 games.
Right. Yeah. Listen, I'm not disputing what McDavid represents. I think natural evolvement, like evolving naturally based on the resources you have today.
I think it took
compared
guts,
to what they had in the 80s.
I think it took guts for the Quizmaster to put that out there.
Yeah.
And I think he's been largely proven.
Oh, I think he is in terms of the skating, the skills at that pace, in terms of taking advantage of modern, diets, information, workouts, intensity, buying into the lifestyle that's necessary to reach that point. I think he's absolutely right. But I think, every generation evolves past the next one. The game evolves past the next one, including the rules. Like, could McDavid play in the same way he's playing now if this was 30 years ago? Does his speed mean as much if clutching and grabbing is available to the defense? Probably not.
He's the first player with 150 points in this century.
Yes. It's very rarely happened in NHL history.
Right. So.
Yeah, no, I know that. I got it. But I guess maybe I'm misinterpreting. Like, when I hear evolved, I take that as better. And that's where I draw the line.
No, I think
because he's not better than Gretzky.
It's not the same thing.
No, okay, but then it's what is it worth then in terms of comparing players to players?
Because he's got a chance if he carries on this trajectory.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he has a chance to be considered the greatest player ever?
Yes.
Based on that, or does he need does he need cups? Does he need gold medals?
Well, you see, so the thing for me is the Stanley Cup is a team accomplishment.
Still, all the great players of all time have it.
But now there's 32 teams. Lots of great players are going to retire when the Stanley Cup. A lot of great players.
Not all-time greats.
Yeah.
Well, then that's on them.
I don't believe that. I don't think that. I think that now with 32 teams, it's going to be quite possible to have a great career and not win the cup.
Really?
It's certainly, Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer in history, whether he won the Stanley Cup or not.
Did he win one?
Doesn't matter.
Did he win one? So he did win one.
But regardless of whether he did or not, he didn't need the Stanley Cup to be considered.
Right, but that's talking about something very specific. That's the best goal scorer of all time. This is the greatest player. This is saying you're in a class, there's like 10 guys we're talking about, maybe even less than that.
Isn't he already in the top 10?
Greatest players of all time? McDavid? Yeah, you'd have to go down the list. He probably is.
Yeah.
But can he break through Gretzky, Lemieux, Howe, or Crosby? Can he break through that list? I don't know. I think he's got to win, personally. I think there's got to be Conn Smythe. I think there's got to be cups. I think there's got to be international moments. And a lot of that's unfair to him because the international has not been available to him.
He hasn't had the opportunity to do that.
Right.
So that's
which is totally,
criminal.
that's not absolutely ridiculous and silly that he has not had that opportunity. But Sid had that moment. Mario had it. Gretzky had it in 87.
And he
had it in 76.
And he hasn't had the opportunity. He just has not, and that's not on him.
No. But yeah, he's going to make a great case. You look at the resume of Gretzky, Lemieux.
Yeah.
He's
already in that neighborhood. He's 26 years old.
Yeah, he's in that neighborhood. He's the best of the best. There's no question. All right, more confirm or deny still to come. Got a little bit sidetracked there. We'll continue with this. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, confirm or deny continuing here. Just a brief hiatus.
So, I am Gretzky Mafia. You know that, right?
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you're Mr. McDavid.
No, I just think that he is, I do believe he has, at the elite skill level, he checks the boxes in every category.
McDavid most certainly does.
Yeah, he really does. That's
no question about that.
Yeah. And I think that the thing with Orr, Gretzky, and people when you make the expansion argument is, well, if it was that easy, nobody else did it.
Right. Gretzky scored 92 goals and had 215 points.
Yep.
I'm sorry, the defense rests. Case dismissed. Now, what McDavid did this year is probably relatively close to what Gretzky represented.
Right.
In terms of lapping the field. McDavid is lapping the field. Now, he's running away from everyone else in terms of point production, in terms of dominance, in terms of being the man. But
so the difference is
was
now
something else.
From a team perspective is teams used to dominate other teams. Pittsburgh went 43 straight games without winning in Philadelphia. They were in the same division. Edmonton won 29 in a row. I mean, the great teams. We had the Islanders won 19 straight playoff series.
Right.
It doesn't happen anymore.
Does not happen.
It does. It's the nature of sports now.
32 teams.
It does not happen anymore.
No. Salary cap, big part of that.
Yeah.
Confirm or deny, brought to you by Don Valley North Lexus. Right now, lease the 2024 UX 250 hybrid premium package from just $278 bi-weekly for 24 months. Visit DonValleyNorthLexus.com for details. Maybe some confirm or deny after dark.
Ooh.
Gord. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Mackenzie Hughes coming up.
Can't wait.
We got a draft coming up as well. We'll
I forgot
explain the
about that.
details on that. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.